Welcome to another Hayley-Roxanna crafts video. In this video I'm going to show you how I wash and iron my finished cross stitch pieces. Now I will admit that when it's a smaller piece I don't always wash it, mainly because I haven't handled it much, so it hasn't really got grubby. But there are some reasons as to why you may need to wash your cross stitching when it's done. Firstly, although we know we're not supposed to eat or drink while we're cross stitching, I don't think I've ever met a cross stitcher that doesn't do that. And you know, we all have that little accident where that bit of chocolate's got on your cross stitching, or your tea or your coffee is sort of splashed on your work. You know, or even just another member of the household has accidentally spilt something on your work. It happens, and we need to be able to get those stains out so it doesn't ruin our finished piece. But even if you are really good and you never eat or drink while you're cross stitching so you don't get anything on your work, and you always make sure you wash your hands before you start, you can still transfer oils from your fingers onto the work as you're stitching. It's just natural oils out of your hand. So these need to be washed off in order to preserve the work the best way possible. So I'm going to show you how I do that. So this is the finished cross stitch that I'm going to wash today. This is something that I completed quite a long time ago, to be fair. It's obviously not one of my own designs, but it's one that I have had lying about for a while. I found it the other day with a few other cross stitches and decided it's about time that I wash this. Now this is a piece that I have used masking tape on the outside of to stop the edges fraying when I was stitching. But before washing this piece I am going to need to remove the masking tape. So you just carefully pull it off. You will find your material might fray a little bit as you're doing this. But it shouldn't really matter. Okay, you can just carefully remove it all, peel it off. You will find that when you've used used masking tape around the edges, sometimes you may get a bit of sticky residue left, especially if you've left the tape on for a while after you've finished stitching the piece. But again, that doesn't matter. It's one of the reasons why we need to wash our finished piece. There we go. That's all ready to go. I will just pull off these frayed bits that are sticking off, or you can just trim them off. But that's now ready for washing. Now that I'm ready for washing my cross stitch, I've got a bowl with some lukewarm water in. This bowl I've got just for washing my cross stitching, just to make sure that the bowl hasn't got any sort of grease in it or anything that might transfer onto your finished cross stitch when you've washed it. Normally I would do the washing of my cross stitch in the bathroom, but my bathroom isn't suitable for filming in, which is why I'm in a carpeted room for today, just so I can show you how I do my washing. One thing that I know worries people when they're washing their cross stitch is if their threads or their material are not colour fast. They worry about colours running. One way around this is you could just do a test on some scraps of your threads and material before you wash your actual finished piece. Just pop them into the bowl of water, let them soak for a bit, and then you can just make sure that the water is clean and hasn't got coloured in any way. Another option is to use cooler water. So rather than lukewarm, just use cold water to wash it in. That's absolutely fine. And then into this bowl of water I'm going to add some soak. This is just a mild scentless soap that I use especially for when you've done any fabric work really, but any non-biological washing powder put into the water is fine. You don't need a lot. I just squeeze a little bit in like so and give it a bit of a swish round. Okay, and that's now ready for me to put my cross stitch in. So I've just pre-rinsed my finished cross stitch in some cold water. This step isn't strictly necessary, but I like to do it just to make sure that my colours aren't going to run when I place it into my bowl of water. And then you just slowly lower it into the bowl, like so. Push it down, give it a bit of a swish round. Just a gentle stir. If you've got any stubborn stains on there, you can just gently rub them to try and get rid of it, maybe with a soft brush if absolutely necessary. But I've never yet found a stain that doesn't come off just by soaking it. So that's in the bowl. Just make sure everything's nice and clean as best you can, and then I'm just going to leave that in the water to soak for about 15 minutes. If I've got a particularly stubborn stain on there, I might leave it for up to an hour. But you can leave it in as long as you feel is necessary. Like I say, sort of minimum of 15 minutes is probably enough. So when that's been in there for 15 minutes, I will come back and show you me taking it out. So my cross stitch has now soaked for about 15 minutes, so I'm ready to take it out. It's just as simple as picking it up out of the water, like so. Just try and shake off a little bit of the excess, just so you don't drip everywhere. You don't want to screw your cross stitch up to wring water out of it, as that can damage your finished piece. I'm just going to go and rinse this under some running water until the water runs clear, just to make sure that all the soap has been washed off it. And then I will lie it on a towel and show you how we take out the excess water. So when you've taken your cross stitch out of the water and you've rinsed any excess soap off it, you then just want to place it face down on a towel. Like so. Make sure you don't put it, if there's any like band on the towel like this, just make sure you put it just above that so the cross stitch isn't over it. Preferably you want to use a white towel, but as long as you've got a plain coloured towel, as you can see mine's not white, you just want to make sure that you've got a towel that's not going to transfer any colour from the towel onto your fabric. For this reason, I tend to use a lighter coloured towel just to be on the safe side, just in case the towel's not quite colour fast, especially if it's quite a new towel. But as long as your towel is clean, you'll be absolutely fine for this. So yeah, you just place it face down. You can put another towel on top, or what I do if it's a smaller cross stitch piece like this one is I just fold the towel over it like so. Okay, and then to remove the excess water, all you're going to do is just roll your cross stitch up in the towel very gently. You can press on it slightly, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to be wringing the towel out, because that can then distort your finished cross stitch piece, which will obviously then ruin it, which you certainly don't want to do after you spent hours stitching it. So just gently press on that towel to try and remove some of the excess water. Okay, and then we can unroll that like so. Take it out, and then you just want to leave it somewhere flat for it to dry out. That obviously depends how long it will take, will depend on the temperatures at the time, where you live, what your house is like. So it can take anywhere from a couple of hours to a couple of days to sort of dry out. But just leave it somewhere safe and flat to dry. You can transfer it onto a drier towel if you want, but I would leave it on a towel while it's drying, just to give it a little bit of protection. And then Once it's dry, I will show you how I then iron it. So once your cross stitch has dried, it will most likely need ironing. To do this, you can get out your ironing board, or what I do is I pop an ironing pad down on the floor, and then you just want a clean, dry towel on top of your ironing surface. And then take your cross stitch and you want to place it face down so the back of the work is showing onto your towel, like so. And then take an iron that's on just a medium heat and iron over the back of your work. The reason we do this on a towel, face down on a towel, is to stop your stitches from getting squashed. You never want to iron a cross stitch face up, so on the front of the work, because you'll squash all your stitches and it just won't look as good when you're finished. If you find you've got any stubborn creases that won't come out, you can use the steam function on your iron. If you're doing this, you may want to pop another towel over the top of the work, or it can just be a case of, if you've got a large towel, folding the top of that over and then using your steam function for any stubborn creases. This one's not too bad. Just give it a good iron. And then once you're happy that all your creases are out, you can flip your work back over. And that's ready to do whatever you want to do with it, whether you're framing it, making it into an item. So that's my finished cross stitch, washed and ironed and ready for whatever I now want to do with it. I will pop links to some of the items that I've used in this video below. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to pop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. In my next video, I'm actually going to show you an idea that I've come across of how you can store some of your finished cross stitch pieces that you don't necessarily want framed and put up on your wall, or that you don't want to make into bunting, hanging decorations, cushions, whatever. But you'd like to, keep them safe and be able to look at them and enjoy them still, because you've worked hard on these pieces and you want to be able to enjoy them, even if you don't necessarily want them out on display all the time. So yeah, in my next video, I will show you the method that I have come across for doing this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time, hopefully. Bye.